100 years before the Jesus Christ. At that time, world was immature, but Indian subcontinent was not immature. By that time itself, India was flourished, one of the greatest civilization as a successor to the earlier Indus Valley civilization, 5,000 years Indus Valley civilization. By the 563 BC itself, India was flourished and it was in a greatest position on the earth surface as a beacon of light as far as the human civilization itself. By that time, the Hinduism, not in the present form, of course in the Vedic form, mostly, it was flourished. But however, the Hinduism, the present Hinduism, it is a perennial civilization. It is a major religion in the perennial civilization. Of course, the present Hinduism is not a true Hinduism as we had as a Sanatana Dharma. It is the present Hinduism is a admixture of various traditions, because like a Ganga river, it is a perennial river. It was merged with so many sects and sub-religions, etc., even by reformers as well, like Buddha. Okay, the present Hinduism at the 563 BC, it came to standstill by the time of Buddha because of the complex rituals, casteism, rigid casteism, and complex terminology which was unknown and almost perplexed to the masses at that time. Rigid casteism especially, like moksha and liberation, these were only eligible to only few people were eligible to these things. So at that time, Buddha originated on the origin of the Indian subcontinent. He was not only reformed himself, he was realized because of the three things: sickness, age old, and dead bodies. By visualizing these three things, he tried to attempting to realize what is the real purpose of the life. He was self-reliant. He was self-realized through nirvana. That is what Buddha, enlightenment at Bodh Gaya. Now it is in Bihar. Okay. Later, he started to propaganda what he learned from the enlightenment. It was really amazing, and first time it was unprecedented. It was happened on the earth surface. See, remember, this was just around 600 years before the Jesus Christ. 600 years before the present major religions of the globe, that was the Islam and the Christianity. Imagine the period, the profoundness of this importance of Buddha. So he compelled the Hinduism, then major religion of the subcontinent, almost half of the world around Hinduism, but we don't have evidences. But around it is a subcontinent. In the subcontinent, Hinduism was the most important dominant religion. He compelled the Hinduism to reform itself, and he challenged the Hinduism to vary its foundations. He shaken the Hinduism. Hinduism went to the verge of the extinct because under his fold, under his dominance, propaganda, under his charisma, and people were attracted to Buddha, and Buddhism spread across the subcontinent. Not only that, it crossed the Hindu fold, it spread across the eastern hemisphere, including the Southeast Asia, Japan, even China, Tibet, Sri Lanka, even Ireland and eastern hemisphere, even some areas of the western hemisphere also, even Middle East also. So this was the strength and the dominant force of the Buddhism. He started to reform the Hinduism. In what way? He compelled the Hinduism reformed itself in the latter period, even during the Buddha period itself. But in this way, Buddhism not only compelled, and it is dominated the Hinduism and surpassed the Hinduism in every branch, and even in culture, art, social sphere, economic sphere, in every dimension of the human life in the subcontinent. And it dominated these monasteries like this Sanghas is almost surpassed some Hindu temples like Kashi, Varanasi, etc. The Sarnath, Savarpap, this Varanasi city now. Okay, from where the Buddha discourse gave his first discourse, that is sermon. Okay, this was the condition by 563. In the latter centuries, after the Buddha's demise, the Buddhism started to spread. During the reign of Ashoka, it was experienced its zenith position during the Ashoka, after the almost century after the death of the Buddha. So why it has extincted? From that zenith position, it fell into zero position. Why it has extincted, how it was extincted, it's not a miraculous. Simple thing is there. We can elucidate in more profound analysis of like Buddhism origin and its spread and Hinduism origin, the strength and dominance and various characteristic traits of the Hinduism. By elucidating this all, by analyzing all, it is very simple to, it is very easy to understand why it has extincted from the Indian subcontinent. But however, one thing is important. This Buddhism extincted from Hinduism, but it spread almost half of the globe. Buddhism ended from the Indian subcontinent, but Buddha didn't ended from the Indian subcontinent. What happened? Why it is a perplex in the religious history and cultural history of the globe. It is very important, even it is very important to understand the strength and perennialness and uninterrupted civilizational characteristic of Indian civilization itself. But Buddha is the star and the stalwart, stellar figure of the India's civilization history itself. So look at this one. Let me to elucidate about it. First, understand Buddhism is not an independent religion. This is very important point. Buddhism emanated and offshoot and become offshoot of Hinduism. Actually, after Vedas, Upanishad came up. Especially this Upanishad written mostly in the Ganges plains of this Naimisharanya, present Bihar, UP and Himalayas, this region. From where, which means the Upanishad gave birth to Buddha and even other sects also, like Jainism also. Buddha came from this questioning trait of the Upanishad. In fact, the Buddhism is offshoot. Buddhism is the offshoot of Hinduism. It's not an independent religion, even by absolutely. It is an offshoot of Hinduism. It came from the Hinduism as a branch of Hinduism, and it dominated Hinduism. It challenged Hinduism, and it reformed Hinduism, and it compelled the Hinduism. Even Hinduism went to at the edge of the extinction. It was the dominant, charismatic and this propaganda and his order, this monastic order, strength of monastic orders of the great Buddha. And he reformed the Hinduism and reformed the Hinduan society by preaching that everybody is eligible to moksha. Whereas the Hinduism, it is gave moksha, this eligibility to only Brahmins, one caste, out of the fourfold of Varna system. But Buddha talked that this everybody, everyone, no bar is eligible to moksha. That's what nirvana. And he clearly expounded what is nirvana. Is more clearly than the Hinduism. And he stressed mostly on the truth and non-violence and other characteristics. But here the important thing is, whatever that characteristic and whatever the things that he expounded and he elucidated and he described more clearly, more lucidly, more vividly to the people, they are not new. They are in fact hidden in the Hindu fold. So he emphasized them and he take out from this Hindu fold and gave it as a boon to the whole masses. Masses were attracted. But later, under the compulsion of Hinduism is started to emphasize their probably hidden things in the Hindu mass thing. Hindu, almost it is a massive in nature, where everything is buried, though they are diamonds like. So from where Buddha found diamonds from this truth, non-violence, this equity, equality to all, etc., etc. So he preached the egalitarian society. So like this, now Hindu is under the compulsion. It started to emphasize what Buddha has taken out clearly. So once this Hinduism started to emphasizing them, again people returned to Hindu fold. But by the time, after the centuries of this monasteries establishment by Buddha in the latter period of centuries, some kings started to come to the Hindu fold and they started to patronize the Hinduism. And this Buddha's monasteries become more corrupted in nature and more weakened, and schisms started as a fault lines in the Buddhism. And later the Buddha during the time of Buddha emphasized the masses languages like Pali and other native languages. In the latter period, this Buddha's monastery started to return back to the Sanskrit, the sacred language of Hinduism. These things gave this crematorium They almost buried the Buddhism. Buddha remained, Buddhism is assimilated to Hindu fold. It's not a surprising thing. In fact, in a sum up, I would like to sum up more clearly. This Buddhism, okay, emanated from the Hinduism. So it challenged the Hinduism and reached to zenith and surpassed the Hinduism at the time of Buddha and later 1 century after the Buddha during the Ashoka the Great reign. And later it started to assimilate it and finally assimilated. Buddha remained. Buddhism is extincted from the Indian subcontinent. But by that time itself, the Buddhism is spread across half of the globe. This Buddhism is remained half of the globe beyond this India subcontinent, in Thailand, Southeast Asia, East Asia, North Asia, even up to Antarctic, even Southeast Asia also. But however, Buddha remained, Buddhism extincted. Hinduism came to the forefront. Hinduism got benefited, masses got benefited. In the latter period, this Buddha became the 9th incarnation of the Lord Vishnu. In fact, he come to as a part of the God of the Hinduism. This is what in 1893 multi-religious conference, okay, it was clearly explained by Swami Vivekananda. That is what the mighty skills of Hinduism. It can assimilate anything, it can adopt anything, it can modify it according to the situations and conditions and challenges. That is what Hinduism, the main religion of the Indian civilization. Hindu religion is not prime to Indian civilization. It is just an integral part of the Indian civilization. Now Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism, everything is a small minute particles of the Indian civilization. It is uninterrupted, one of the oldest civilization, and it is a living civilization. It has been still living. It is one of the oldest civilization. That is why Hinduism is also one of the oldest religion. Of course, it is the oldest religion as well as according to so many analysts as well. Now Buddhism ended, Buddha remained. Buddha became the part of the 9th incarnation of Lord Vishnu. It is not a surprising. Okay, if you keenly observed and studied various books like Ambedkar and various analysts, Sarvepal Radhakrishnan, etc., we can understand. But however, the Buddha still very important figure of the Hindus. Okay, irrespective of religion, whatever that religion they are following, they worshipping the Buddha. In every home, in every where we can see the Buddha figure, Buddha statue. Buddhism is not there. Buddha is there. Even after studying around, after comparatively analyze the almost all major religions of the earth for around 21 years, that is from 1934 to 1955, Ambedkar, one of the greatest and cerebral figure of the earth, he came to conclusion that the Buddhism is one of the best religion in order to give equality and equity to the common people, especially downtrodden section. That is the greatness of Buddhism. Even Ambedkar converted lakhs of the people into the Buddha fold in order to escape from the caste rigidity in India. That is what. Even Mahatma Gandhi also followed some of the preachings of this Buddha. So in this way, he is not only, he is the beacon of light to the greatest reformers since 563 BC. Even Jesus Christ, this propaganda and spreading of his religion, this monastery is his biggest clue to them. Even Islam, Buddhism, even other latter religions followed the suit of the Buddha as far as these monastery quarters are concerned. That is the propaganda things. So in this way, Buddhism is far dominated than this Hinduism in terms of the propaganda. The Buddha, even Vivekananda challenged. If Hinduism has the one characteristic that is spread of the message of the God, whole earth could have been with this Hinduism, like Buddhism. If Buddhism is once this was an offshoot of Buddhism spread across the globe, why not Hinduism? If Hinduism started to propaganda of its earlier things, its basic tenets. So in this way, Buddha, become the greatest figure in the horizon of one of the oldest civilization in history. That is what Indian civilization. Buddha is very important figure in India.